Coming up on News 11, Fredonia Village Board approves marijuana dispensaries and consumption locations. And Pfizer announces COVID-19 pill and attempts to get it approved by the FDA. And Elon Musk is challenged by the United Nations to stop world hunger. These stories and more, News 11 starts right now.
Welcome to News 11. I'm Chloe Kowalik.
And I'm Christian Cronin.
All right, well, we've got a lot of great stories this week, so let's jump right into it. The city of Dunkirk is set to receive a loan of over $11 million to restructure and upgrade the city's water. The new York State Environmental Facilities Corporation Board of Directors approved the loan as well as other finances that add up to $83 million to improve clean water statewide. The city plans to use interest-free financing for designing and the construction of a new water pollution control strategy. In August, the city of Dunkirk experienced one of the largest water main breaks in its history, following in the area of Lakeshore Drive and East Steer Street. The town of Ellicott in Chautauqua County has also received $400,000 from the form of a grant, which the town plans to invest in rehabbing a $150,000 gallon water storage tank.
The Village of Fredonia has voted to allow marijuana dispensaries. The Village Board voted 4-1 to allow locations for both the sale and consumption of marijuana within the village. Board Trustee Evalden Bashaw said, quote, "The majority of us are in favor of dispensaries, so we thought, what a chicken thing to do to just leave it until December 31st and let it go. We thought, let's make the statement because we believe that there should be some opportunities for dispensaries." However, this has not changed how marijuana is seen in the eyes of SUNY Fredonia. President Stephen Colson sent a letter to Fredonia mayor saying, quote, "Marijuana is still considered an illegal drug in the eyes of the federal laws for which SUNY Fredonia must comply with. Federal laws including the Drug-Free Schools and Communities Act and the Drug-Free Workplace Act. Even though New York State has, among several other states that have legalized marijuana, the fact of the matter remains that it is still considered an illegal drug by the government of the United States of America. Marijuana cannot be permitted on campus in any form. The New York State Office of Cannabis Management will issue licenses and set regulations for businesses."
Fredonia isn't the only town to discuss dispensaries and consumption locations in Western New York. About a month ago, the village of East Aurora opted in for allowing marijuana dispensaries in the area. But now comes the decision to opt in or out of allowing consumption sites within the village boundaries as well. As so many of the village residents are in favor of the sites, just as many are not, creating a divide. Some residents feel that this could be a, quote, deal breaker, end quote, for them. The main concern is that allowing the consumption of sites to happen will create a doorway for those who would like to come into the village, consume cannabis, and then leave impaired, and for most of them, their mode of transportation would be driving. Yet, now that East Aurora has opted in to allow dispensaries, they are no longer able to opt out.
A Colorado County school is being forced to move to online learning due to staffing troubles. On Tuesday, Gowanda Central School District announced that all schools will be moved to online learning until the end of Thanksgiving break. In a memo, District Superintendent Dr. Robert Anderson said, quote, As of the moment, we will return to 100% in person on Monday, November 29th. We do not at the moment have enough staff in critical areas to operate school districts fully in person. The school announced that district problems such as P-TECH, special education, and BOCES will continue as scheduled. All events such as parent-teacher conferences will still occur, and according to Anderson, all staff are required to be on location.
Since Halloween, Western New York has seen a major spike in COVID-19 cases. This is coming at a critical time for many, as we're just 1 week away from the Thanksgiving holiday, and many families are planning to get together. This is causing some officials to speak on the possibility of reintroducing COVID restrictions in the area. Executives and health commissioners from the Buffalo and Rochester areas held a joint COVID-19 press conference on Monday to call for community action to address the region's continued rise in COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations. Quote, "We are in a fourth spike, there's no doubt about it," end quote, Erie County Executive Mark Fulenkar said. Poland Cars has said that he wants to try to avoid new restrictions, but will if it becomes necessary. Instead, he wants people to try to do what they can to limit the spread of COVID-19, including getting vaccinated, wearing masks, and staying home when you feel sick.
The West Seneca Police Department is asking the suspect or suspects of a car theft to return a valuable family keepsake that was inside the car at the time of theft. Among the items stolen was a small urn containing the ashes of the victim's mother. Because of the sentimental value of the item, police are asking the suspect to return the item to the police station with no questions asked. This was at the victim's request. There has also been a string of car thefts lately, with credit cards, golf clubs, and wallets being stolen from people's cars in the West Seneca area. Anyone with any information is asked to call the West Seneca Police at 716-674-2280.
This Thanksgiving season, This Thanksgiving season, the Buffalo Sabres will once again team up with Wegmans and Odyssey for a Thanksgiving turkey drive. This year, the return of the, quote, Turkeys for Drive, end quote, drive will be held on Tuesday, November 18th. The collection will benefit the Buffalo City Mission and Feed More WNY, and it will take place from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. at the following locations: KeyBank Center Surface Lot, Wegmans in Amherst, and Wegmans in West Seneca. President and CEO of Feed More WNY, Tara A. Ellis, says, quote, the Turkeys for Tickets Drive is a crucial event for Feed More WNY as we work to provide food-insecure families with nourishing meals during the holidays, end quote. For every 20-pound turkey dropped off, or the equivalent of a 20-pound turkey, donors will receive one voucher, good for 2 tickets to an upcoming Sabres game. Vouchers will be given immediately by volunteers at the drop-off sites. Donors will also get a Sabres/Wegmans branded Thanksgiving placemat while supplies last.
There's a new candidate running for the New York governor, Jumaine Williams, after Andrew Cuomo's resignation this past summer, who faced multiple sexual harassment allegations. The position opened up, which Williams is willing to take. In a video claiming his candidacy, Williams touched base on his former activism, quote, leading protests against police abuse and deportations, and touted record-passing legislation as public advocate, end quote. Williams says, quote, right now our state needs to move forward from a pandemic, from an era of scandal, and from old ways of governing that have failed so many for so long, end quote. To kick off his campaign, Williams has opened about his troubles with Tourette's syndrome and struggles with ADHD. He said, quote, my Tourette's has never defined me, but it has represented a truth about my life and my work, end quote.
With many plastic items becoming banned, state parks could be the next place to eliminate single-use bottles. State Senator Elijah Melnick recently introduced a state bill to prohibit the sale of single-use plastic bottles in state parks. Across all of New York that are managed by the Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation, this would include state parks such as Long Point, Midway, and Allegheny. Melnick said, quote, prohibiting the state parks from selling single-use plastic bottles is a simple, straightforward approach to reducing our carbon footprint and curbing plastic pollution in natural areas and waterways, end quote. 1 million single-use plastic water bottles are sold around the world every minute, but less than a third of those will be recycled. Most of the single-use plastic water bottles created will eventually find their way into landfills, lakes, rivers, and oceans, leaving chemicals and microplastics into the water supply. And when we come back, a look at your national news.
We're ready for you.
Pneumococcal.
If you're 65 or older, like me, you're at greater risk for pneumococcal pneumonia, even if you're healthy.
People 65 plus are over 10 times more likely to land in the hospital for pneumococcal pneumonia than those 18 to 49. And it's important we all do what we can to stay healthy. So, talk to your doctor or pharmacist about vaccination.
Hope. Where are you hiding? I search for you in the seconds, the minutes of each and every day. Hear me as I call out to you. Take my hand. Lift me up as I lift up others. Welcome me home, Father, Mother, Sister, Brother, Son, Daughter. Hear us now. Alone we stood, divided we fell. No longer. Now we choose to make the connection. Our new mission lies within. Visit maketheconnection.net to learn more.
16 is such a significant age. I promise to help protect my eldest daughter during this exciting time in her life. Teens are at an increased risk for meningococcal disease, a rare, potentially deadly bacterial infection. But half hadn't received the CDC-recommended second dose of the MenACWY vaccine at 16. I want to help change that. Take your shot against meningitis. Talk to your teen's doctor about the MenACWY vaccine and ask about MenB. Visit the16vaccine.org.
Okay. This past Tuesday, Pfizer has requested an emergency use of authorization from the FDA for its arrival on a COVID-19 treatment pill. The treatment is called Paxlovid and seeks to treat mild to moderate symptoms of COVID-19 in those at an increased risk of hospitalization or death. Data from the company has shown that Pfizer's new treatment has reduced the risk of hospitalization or death in at-risk patients by 89%. Pfizer's development comes after Britain has recently become the first country to grant conditional authorization to the drug company Merck's COVID-19 antiviral pill, which has received emergency use FDA approval last month.
Some states have announced that adults can get a booster shot of the COVID-19 vaccine 6 months after their second dose. A growing number of states have begun advertising the booster shot, including California, Colorado, New Mexico, New York City, and now Arkansas and West Virginia. West Virginia Governor Jim Justice has said, quote, "People have got to get their booster shots. That's all there is to it," end quote. The FDA and CDC have approved booster shots in the Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson vaccines, but only for certain populations. This includes the elderly and those who are immunocompromised. Pfizer has announced that last week it asked the FDA to expand the use of the booster shot to all adults after a study showed its effectiveness in over 10,000 participants. Several state leaders are encouraging adults ages 18 and over to get their booster shot if they feel it will benefit them.
On Tuesday, jurors began deliberations on the case of Kyle Rittenhouse in regards to the shooting that occurred in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Rittenhouse, now 18, faces one count for each of the 4 people in the incidents, as well as a count for allegedly endangering a journalist who was standing not far behind Rosenbaum, who was one of the men Rittenhouse fatally killed. The most severe of his 5 charges is first-degree intentional homicide for shooting Anthony Huber, which would therefore come with a life sentence in prison if convicted. The judge said there will be a substantial amount of warning time between then and the verdict, time between when a verdict is reached and when it will be read. He declined to specify how long, but said, quote, "You probably could make it up from Chicago in time, unless it was a Friday night," end quote. Chicago is just over an hour drive from Kenosha.
Freshman Representative Nancy Mace, South Carolina Republican, proposed a bill Monday to decriminalize marijuana at the federal level, making a push for bipartisan support on an issue typically championed by Democrats in years past. During a news conference on Monday, Mace introduced the state's Reform Act, which would federally decriminalize cannabis and regulate the substances similarly to how alcohol is regulated, while instituting a 3% excise on tax cannabis products. Mace says, quote, "The state's Reform Act takes special care to keep Americans and their children safe while ending federal interference with state cannabis laws. Washington needs to provide a framework which allows states to make their own decisions on cannabis moving forward. This bill does that," end quote. Although the bill would decriminalize marijuana at the federal level, no state or local government would be required to change its current policies, Mace noted. Instead, the bill would remove the substance from Schedule 1 of the Controlled Substances Act, and therefore give states the ability to determine what level of cannabis reform each state already has or not. Mace says, quote, "This bill supports veterans, law enforcement, farmers, businesses, and those with serious illnesses, and it's good for the criminal justice reform," end quote.
Currently, no states are on track to achieve their sustainability goals set by the United Nations back in 2015. The states have until 2030 to meet their goals, but studies show that none of the states are on track, with southern states falling the most behind. These 17 sustainability goals were adopted by the 193 countries, including the U.S., and were set to take, quote, "urgent action," end quote, on climate change and food insecurity. Mississippi, West Virginia, Louisiana, and Arkansas are at the bottom of the list. Only 3 states, Delaware, Massachusetts, and Maine, are on target for reaching at least one of the 17 goals previously set. Vermont is currently leading the rest of the states with their sustainability goals. However, none of the states are making enough progress to realistically meet their goals by 2030. Officials hope this will serve as a wake-up call for the states, hoping they will get back on track soon.
The pilot of an air tanker was killed Tuesday when the plane crashed near Wildfires in Colorado. The single-engine plane was reported to have crashed around 6:30 p.m. Tuesday and was found at 9:30 p.m. later that night. There's only one occupant on the plane and they did not survive. The sheriff's office has yet to say whom the plane belonged to. The plane crash site was not far from the Kruger Rock wildfire that broke out Tuesday morning and in an area that is under a mandatory evacuation order. Officials have not said if the plane was fighting the fire when it crashed.
In 2016, Wanda Dench accidentally texted Jamal Hinton, inviting him over for Thanksgiving dinner. Dench meant to text her grandson, but he had changed his number. Instead, she reached Hinton instead. The two quickly realized the mistake and sent each other selfies. Hinton asked Dench if he would still come over, to which Dench replied, quote, "Of course. That's what grandmas do. Feed everyone," end quote. After having dinner, the two decided to turn it into a tradition. Hinton has shared each year's Thanksgiving dinner on social media. This year, Dench and Hinton will be spending their 6th Thanksgiving together. After the break, Sarah Gorton gives us a more optimistic look at the Buffalo Bills, and Andy gives us a look at tonight's weather. Thursday and Friday's weather. Thank you.
We've been down there. You gotta do the same. Post office. All you do is sign. So don't get nervous. Sign your name. For selective service. It takes no time. Just sign on the line at the post office. For selective service.
Hey guys, if you're about to turn 18, you've got to register with Selective Service. It's simple. Just go down to the post office, fill out a card, and turn it in. That's all there is to it. There's no draft now. You're just adding your name to Selective Service's list in case there's a national emergency.
So if you're 18 now, Selective Service, you gotta get down to the post office.
Register with Selective Service. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the law.
Takes no time. Just sign on the line at the post office. Selective Service. We've been down there. Post office. You gotta do the same. Post office. All you do is sign. So don't get nervous. Sign your name. For Selective Service. It takes no time. Just sign on the line at the post office. For Selective Service.
Hey guys, if you're about to turn 18, you've got to register with Selective Service. It's simple. Just go down to the post office, fill out a card, and turn it in. That's all there is to it. There's no draft now. You're just adding your name to Selective Service's list in case there's a national emergency.
So if you're 18 now, Selective Service, you gotta get down to the post office.
Register with Selective Service. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the law.
Takes no time. Just sign on the line at the post office. Selective Service.
Sarah, after an ugly loss in Week 9, I can only imagine you're excited to talk about the Jets matchup this past Sunday, but what's going on in Fredonia sports?
Well, this week for Fredonia sports, the men's ice hockey team brought a thrilling conference win back to Fredonia after beating Mooresville State 2-1 last Saturday, November 13th. Mooresville scored 6 minutes into the game, but the net remained empty of pucks for both teams until halfway through the third period, when Fredonia's Jake Blackwell tied the game on a power play. It was looking like a trip to overtime, just as David Sudbrink scored the winning goal with 3 seconds left on the clock. Congrats to the Blue Devils, who will take the ice again tomorrow at 7 p.m. against Potsdam. In national news, the Buffalo Sabres beat the Pittsburgh Penguins in an exciting 2-1 match this past Tuesday. The standout player of the night was Sabres goalie Dustin Tokarski, who had 45 saves and set a career high for himself. The Sabres are currently on the ice right now as in an interconference matchup with the 8-3-5 Calgary Flames. And to close out sports tonight, the Buffalo Bills shook off those Week 9 blues to blow out the New York Jets last Sunday 45-17. Several players had a standout game, Josh Allen throwing for 366 yards and 2 touchdowns, Stephon Diggs having 162 receiving yards and 1 touchdown, and Devin Singletary, Matt Breida, Zach Moss, and Isaiah McKenzie all having a rushing touchdown. We'll see the Bills play the Indianapolis Colts this upcoming Sunday at 1 p.m.
Thank you so much, Sarah. We haven't seen the Bills in Buffalo since Halloween, so it'll be nice to have them back in Orchard Park.
Absolutely.
We're now joined by Andy Velez Davis for your Thursday and Friday weather. Andy, it's great to have you back on News 11.
Tonight's temperature will be in the mid-30s, and we may encounter some showers and possibly snow later into the night and early morning. Tomorrow will be cloudy with a low of 34 and a high of 41 degrees.
All right, thanks, Andy. When we come back, a look at your international and odd news.
Different kinds of pipes that freeze for different reasons. To protect yours, wrap insulation around exposed pipes. If a hard freeze is forecast, open the doors under sinks and let the hot and cold faucets trickle overnight. Leave the heat on if you're leaving town. Following these steps can get you through cold weather on a high note.
During World War II, recycling was a way of life on the home front. Rubber, tin cans, cooking grease, paper, scrap iron, those and many more items were recycled for the war effort. It was a time of crisis. The nation desperately needed new sources of raw materials. Millions of Americans were united in a common cause. Today we face a crisis no less real, but of another sort. A solid waste crisis that can no longer be ignored. We are simply running out of places to put our garbage. With your help, we can meet this new challenge as well. Source separation and recycling will save valuable space in our landfills and help protect our drinking water and the air we breathe. Together, we Americans can win the war against waste. Start recycling today.
After being prompted by a challenge from Tesla CEO Elon Musk, the United Nations has provided a plan on how it could spend nearly $7 billion to end world hunger. The proposal comes 3 weeks after David Beasley, executive director of the UN's World Food Program, or WFP, told CNN that roughly 2% of Musk's $279 billion net worth could help end world hunger. Beasley later specified in a tweet that a $6.6 billion donation would, quote, avert famine. Next year, after seeing the interview, Musk said on Twitter that he could immediately sell shares of the electronic car company, which is worth more than $1 trillion, if the UN could explain how the money would solve world hunger. It is estimated that $3.5 billion would go towards food for countries in Africa and the Middle East.
After a Russian anti-satellite missile test was completed on Monday, astronauts living on the International Space System are having to take precautionary measures as debris from the test came close to hitting them. Sergei Shoigu, the Russian defense minister, has said that the debris formed after the test, quote, do not pose any threat to space activities, end quote. However, the crew on the International Space System had to shelter in capsules. The ISS currently has 7 members on board, 4 of which are American, 2 of which are Russian, and the other is German. While the ministry has cited that both China and the United States have also done similar tests, U.S. State Department spokesman Ned Price has said that these claims were, quote, disingenuous and hypocritical, end quote. These tests have also led to increased space debris, which has been made worse through human activity in space. Debris from everything, including rockets launched decades ago, are still floating around in space, as well as flecks of paint that have since flaked off the ships.
Scorpion stings and heavy rain flooding have left over 500 people in the hospital in southern province of Egypt. This severe downpour of hail and thunder have forced the local authorities to suspend school classes. Because of the storm, this forced scorpions to leave their hiding places and enter premises of many houses. The BBC reported that, quote, 503 people were hospitalized after suffering scorpion stings, and that all of them were discharged after they were giving anti-venom doses. Extra doses of anti-venom were provided to medical centers in villages near mountains and deserts in Aswan after the scorpion swarm was reported, end quote. The BBC also reports that, quote, venom from the black fat-tailed scorpion can kill a human in under an hour, end quote. Thankfully, the acting health minister, Khalid Abdel Ghaffar, said in a statement that, quote, no deaths were reported from the scorpion stings, end quote.
All right, well, we've got some very interesting odd news stories for you guys this week, so let's get right into it. Recently, McDonald's has brought it back to the good old days for the 50th birthday of the Egg McMuffin, encouraging its customers to use the mobile app. The restaurant sold the Egg McMuffin for its original price of 63 cents during breakfast hours. Created in 1971 by California franchisee Herb Peterson, the sandwich was compared as being Eggs Benedict on the go and has since been a staple on the menu.
Neighbors in the Richmond district in San Francisco have noted that self-driving cars have been driving to same dead-end street on 15th Avenue, leaving the vehicles no choice but to leave. This strange invasion that didn't have any passengers on board left the neighborhood in a weird haze. Jennifer King, who is a resident of this neighborhood, quote, noticed it while she was sleeping, end quote, and was awoken to a, quote, strange hum, end quote. She later added that, quote, there's some days it can be up to 50 cars, literally every 5 minutes, end quote.
Do you love all things chocolate and peanut butter? Well, you're in luck, as Reese's is releasing their own version of a Thanksgiving dessert just in time for the holiday. Their new 9-inch pie is made of only their classic chocolate and peanut butter. The 3.4-pound pie is realistically just a massive peanut butter cup. This is on the company's website for $44.99 plus tax, and there are only 3,000 pies up for grabs, so snag a slice while you can.
That sounds delicious. But
It really does.
I'd probably die if I had it nowadays because I'm allergic to peanuts, but back in the day,
I'm allergic to chocolate. You know what? Together, we're just
We both die
anti-Reese's.
after
We
eating
both
it,
die.
yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. All right, well, Andy's going to join us again for weather, so let's have a look at our 5-day outlook.
So Saturday and Sunday will be cloudy with a high of 46 and lows into the mid-30s. There's a likely probability of rain Sunday. We will most likely get some snow on Monday with a high of 45 and a low of 30. Tuesday will be especially cold with a high of 36 and a low of 28 degrees with some wind. And we will finally see a bit of sun on Wednesday with a high of 43 and low of 30, just in time for the holidays.
All right, thank you, Andy. It's good seeing you back on weather this week. And, well, that's it for News 11.
Well, geez, this always happens.
All right, anyways, thank you to our crew and to everyone watching at home.
I'm sorry.
We won't be back next week due to Thanksgiving break.
I was supposed to say goodbye, too.
We hope that you have a wonderful holiday. Have a great night. Anything to add?
Goodbye. Thank you for watching.